Okay.
Yeah, I'll bring it into Harrison's.
It's Wednesday, May 18th at about 6:05 PM, 6:08, and we're just going to start the meeting. Attending tonight is Michael McMahon and Amber Bach. Serena is unable to make it tonight, and I'm not sure if Craig's going to be here or not. Do we have any public comments?
I have a public comment.
Okay.
Inga Hoteling, 45 Klein Road. From the last meeting, I had spoken with you, Serena, and Craig in regards to what other communities are doing with the Economic Development Commission. So I had taken your lead. You wanted to know about Avon, Connecticut, Granby, Connecticut, and Wilbraham. So I've got data from those to hand out. I can email this to Serena and Craig. I've been emailing back and forth with them right after that meeting. I wasn't able to put it in a spreadsheet format today, just because of life and work. But it does break down as to what Suffield does with their Economic Development Commission. And what amazed me with talking with Suffield is how involved they refer to it as the EDC commission is. And their mission statement is to attract the best commercial and industrial use for their community. Their fiscal year budget for last year was $24,050. This year it's gone up to $61,000 because they've hired an additional person to come in to help get more data regarding surveys in the community as to what people want, to get more involved with interviewing businesses. They're also involved with the permit procedures and recommendations to the planning board. The second page on here is also more right off of their website as to what their purpose is in more detail. Granby, the woman I spoke to there, she said there is a development commissioner, or development commission, 6 members, and their mission statement is to promote quality for economic development. They have no budget, but how they're used is to weigh in early in the process for any industrial or commercial development. And the planning board uses this commission to also do research on zoning regulations, impact studies, and currently they're engaged with even looking at neighborhood development and how to utilize the town green to promote. Avon does not have one, but what they do is it just like falls under the planning department and zoning, but nothing per se. Wilbraham, they're in the process of rejuvenating their Economic Development Commission. Michael Mazuka has not responded at all to me, and this evening, right before I left my office, he called. So I've got his personal cell phone number, and I'm going to reach out to him first thing tomorrow morning. So here's just a snippet of a few local communities that Craig and Serena were interested in hearing about and how they're utilized.
Okay. Nice to have some information to work
I
with.
have a comment if I may.
Sure.
Diane Gale, 5 Point Grove Road. I was speaking earlier with you about another town that I'm associated with, know of, and that was Windsor, Connecticut. Windsor on the Green, and talking to the originator of their Economic Development Commission, which is very much like the Suffield. And that's where I'm saying they actually have an approval. They are part of the approval process for new businesses.
Oh, good.
I am sorry, I
That's
called
we-
Serena and told her I was going to be late. She said, oh, she just called me back.
That's okay. We just started.
Craig Samuelson has joined the meeting.
Actually, would you mind if Inga just recaps quickly?
Absolutely. Sure.
Just do a quick recap
Right.
for Craig.
Okay.
I had taken the lead from our last
Yeah.
meeting to contact Avon, Granby, and Wilbraham.
Right?
So here's a snippet of that information with Suffield. I spoke to Ellie, who's the administrator of the planning board. She said 15 years ago, they actually had an economic development commissioner. And his purpose was to attract new business and looking for grants that would assist in the development of the commercial business. That has now surpassed, and it's now being handled through the planning board, but as a subcommittee referred to as EDC, Economic Development Commission. Mission statement is to attract best commercial and industrial use for the community. The second page, Craig, is a little synopsis in more detail right off their website of their
Okay.
purpose. And their budget for last year was $24,050. This year it's up to 61 because they just hired a person to come in and help assess with doing surveys to really understand what the community wants and to interview new businesses, be involved with the permit processing, and recommendations to the planning board. So they're very hands-on. Granby, Connecticut, there is a development commission. It has 6 members. Mission statement was really to the point, promote quality economic development, no budget, and they weigh in early in the process when it comes to any industrial or commercial development. And the planning board uses this commission to also do research on zoning regulations, impact studies. They're a little bit of a go-to department to say, hey, can you help us do this? So there's value there. Avon does not have one. It falls under the planning department and zoning, but nothing just strictly for economic development. Wilbraham, as I just told the members here, they are rejuvenating this department because it's fallen to the wayside. I've reached out to Michael on a few occasions, no response, but this evening, just as I was leaving my office, he called. And I've got now his cell phone, and we're gonna talk tomorrow morning.
Okay,
So
good,
it's just a little
very
snippet.
good. Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
When Suffield had a paid person, his name was Patrick McMahon, no relation. And he used to have an annual home and business show. In fact, that's some of the early ideas that got me thinking about doing one here, which we did for 10 years. He was doing it, I believe, in the middle school or the high school in Suffield. It was small, but they had little businesses located in town. And of course, Suffield is a population of 7,000 some odd hundred, so they're a little smaller than us.
I was gonna have it, Diane, did you just wanna repeat cause you were starting to talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
I have a very good friend who started the Economic Development Commission in Windsor, Connecticut. There's Windsor on the Green, Broad Street there, and Windsor, right on the border of Windsor Locks. Talking to her, she would like to offer some contacts that may be helpful to us. She's in Connecticut, we're in Mass, but other contacts, some local contacts that might help guide this commission into a little more outreach, perhaps. And if I may, just on the bylaw that was passed yesterday, part of what is in the comprehensive impact handbook requires applicants to meet with this Economic Development Commission. Presently, there are no standards for what you would ask them, require of them, impose on them. So you can develop that going forward and create that standard.
And then who do we report to?
Then you can make recommendations to the planning board who would ultimately approve the project.
In other words, with this new bylaw that was passed last night at the annual town meeting, if it's a substantial project that meets their definitions, etc., then they have to put together a plan and they've got to do all these things before the public hearing, before the planning board. Up until now, it's been the public hearing scheduled Rob Levesque or some other consulting firm lays out the plan of what the applicant wants to do with a particular piece of property, et cetera. The public can then ask questions and say, what about traffic? Oh, we've got a traffic study going on from Scheist to Scheist and Finagle. It should be completed in the next 3 weeks or 3 months or whatever. But that would be pushing all that stuff forward, which I was gonna get
The
into.
key part to that, if I may, is that they need to do, if it's determined they fall under these guidelines, and the town planner determines they need this impact study, this impact study, and this impact study, I can't believe an economic impact study would never not be required. They have to do that and present that at a community meeting, not a town officials meeting, a community meeting. So in the past, you guys have learned about it when it's been in the paper. This way, the entire community learns about it at the same time. Everybody asks questions, everybody exchanges information, so you come away with a pretty full picture
Because they've
before
already
they've
done.
even
And
made an
that's
application.
before the public
And in
hearing.
order to do that impact study, they have to have met with you first to complete it and then present it in that meeting. So you're way up front in that.
That's
Is that all
great.
spelled out in there?
Yes.
Some of the stuff is in here, and then this refers to a 5 or 7 page handbook, which is on the town website, that they have to go through.
Okay.
Diane, where are we, or Michael, where are we able to find that now from
Oh, you
last
can
night?
find this, if you go on the town website and go into the annual town meeting,
And,
which was
okay,
last
and that's the
night,
new one, okay.
it gives you the whole warrant. And on
Perfect.
page 6 starts article number 19, zoning bylaw, and it's in there. I printed out
Okay,
a copy of it today.
thank you.
This also might help too, Craig.
Okay, thank you.
We have been handing these out for about a week, and it was just a one-page quick
Synopsis.
synopsis
It's the
of
cliff notes
the
to the
bylaw.
I think I saw this on, did you
I did.
post
We
on
had it on
Facebook and
Facebook,
stuff? Yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
it was everywhere.
yep.
But that gives it a really good, quick synopsis. But what was really fun in calling and talking to these communities was they directed me always to the planning department, because it's a arm of the planning department. And with Suffield and even Granby, they utilize you all to do special little projects.
So most, I mean, as far as I'm under the impression from, other areas across the country, that's pretty typical of economic development.
And it's surprising why it
Sense.
isn't here.
Well, apparently it used to be very, I don't know if they came to you guys like up front, but it was very utilized in years past, prior to some other members not being part of this and being on
How
other.
did that come to change, do you know? What happened?
This is at least 17 or 18 or 19 years ago.
Right,
I'm not sure, I
Did
think,
you just lose members or what happened?
I think it was, I think it just, I don't know how to
didn't
put it.
some other members, I think, pursued other places in town, right? And they're.
I don't wanna say by design, it was, relegated insignificant. Well, no.
Those members moved on?
No, I think this is when we were having issues with the sign bylaws and so forth, and I think it was just, stuff really got messy,
Okay,
and,
okay. I think we get it.
For the sign bylaw, there was a public meeting held outside of town hall. It was held at one of the eating and drinking establishments on College Highway. Members of the public who had owned businesses in town came to that and yelled and screamed, in effect, they didn't want limitations. Like, if the new rule was gonna be, a sign could be 2 feet by 3 feet. Oh, we want it bigger than that. And they tried to explain to them at that meeting, if your sign is already approved, it's already up there, nothing is happening. It's just if you wanna put up a new sign, not just refacing it,
Right.
you can change
Right.
it from Jones Company to Smith Company. But if you actually wanna replace the sign with something totally different, then you'd have to deal with the new sign bylaws. And then they get into things, well, if there's 5 businesses, if there's one strip center, we can have 5 signs, and the bylaw says, no, you can have 1 sign. So they get into all sorts of around circles on that stuff. But overall, the sign bylaw worked, except it wasn't supposed to be flashing on and off.
I think the enforcement was an issue too, remember
Yeah.
back then? I mean, that was a big thing, so if the enforcement officer wasn't going to do what they were supposed to do, then, that's what I'm saying, it became insignificant. And so, how do you drive something like that from our vantage point? You know, I mean,
And
It then
enforcement,
becomes a disadvantage point.
Yeah.
the enforcement is the building inspector. In the 20 years I've been in town, the town has had at least 3 or 4 building inspectors. And how enforcement has worked has been, I won't say all over the board, but it's been different from one building inspector to
I
another.
So
couldn't
there's like-
even find out for the longest time who the enforcement officer was. It's a big secret.
It's
I know
the-
now.
Yeah, it's the building inspector. Couple of other key things I just wanted to go over, and then we'll go on to our normal stuff. Apparently, the select board talked about this 3 or 4 months ago, but then I didn't see anything happening. I understand that this week, something is supposed to happen. The select board is going to send notices to all committees, boards, commissions, etc., that are on a 1-year appointment for everyone to indicate if they're interested in being reappointed. And then the selectmen are going to advertise or put on the town website or Facebook or something. But we don't know what the details are going to be on that, but it's supposed to happen in the next week or 2. For the members of the board, when you get this notification asking if you're still interested, follow whatever instructions are on it. I don't know what the instructions are going to be for sure, but respond to that and get it back in. And it,
Can I say something?
Sure.
I don't know if I can interrupt or not. Can I?
yeah,
In a couple of the select board meetings that I've attended, when the select board chair has been talking about getting people's feedback when they are asked, do you still want to participate on this board? They referred to it occasionally as canned response, and it didn't seem sincere.
that was in prior periods.
Or they didn't get any response. So
Right.
they felt that you weren't interested.
That you weren't interested, or it might not be in your best interest to stay in that appointment. So my recommendation, based on remembering what the chair had said, is if you are interested, I would add passion to it. Not just a one-liner, yes, I would like to still continue being part of this commission. But talk about why and how you would like to see the impact of what you can contribute,
Well,
make a difference.
the key or most important piece of that, and that's all important, but key one is make sure you respond.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because I think it may get to the point where lack of response by members of a board or committee might indicate you're not interested. So I think you have to say something positive, return the thing, or
Yep,
right.
send a note or whatever, depending on the instructions they give. Last night before the annual town meeting and the special town meeting, the selectmen met at 5:30. And according to their agenda, one of the items was going to be, and I'm just gonna quote this right from the agenda, approve a 2-year license for the limited use of real property on Beach Road and Congamon Road for 141 Congamon Road. Translation, Krabby Joe's needs more parking spaces to operate, so they want to get some kind of multi-year approval from the town that they can use town property for parking spaces. I don't know how many parking spaces they want. I'm assuming the town select board approved it last night.
They did not, they tabled it.
Oh, did they?
Yes, they did.
Okay. So I wasn't
They
sure.
had quasi approved it the prior week.
Uh-huh.
I think they just had to check something with town council on it.
Which part, where's the parking that they're,
It's on
It-
Congress.
It's on Congamon and on Beach Road. There had been a
It's a
controversy.
Where the
right-
beach
it's a
is?
right of-
For
No,
the-
no, it's a right of way that it's the town's right of way. When it was the former Krabby Joe's, it was parking.
Right,
Under
okay,
the
oh,
new-
okay.
Under the new proposal for Krabby Joe's, they wanna renege the parking.
Oh,
So they went
okay.
through hoops and
Okay.
they have finally come to
Okay.
this agreement that they will license it for those 9, 10 parking spaces.
okay.
Again, it's the
Okay.
same parking
Okay.
that was always there.
Okay,
See, the key thing, the select board can't give away town-owned property unless you brought it to an annual town meeting
right.
where you'd have pitchforks and everything else. People are like, wait a minute, we're not giving away town land
They're not
unless
giving away anything.
we get paid for it, or, it could be a mess.
So are they leasing it then, or?
They intend to lease it, but they tabled it for a couple of reasons. The CRC wants to have a meeting with the select board about it. So they had some concerns, so they wanna have that opportunity to entertain them.
Do we know, what was when Krabby Joe's was there, what was the protocol for it then?
There was no lease, there
I
was
think
no
they
nothing, they
just
just
parked.
used it.
See, over the last 3 or 4 months, you've had neighbors in the area saying, we don't want people coming out of a restaurant or whatever at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night,
Even though they had it for a million years.
turning
Right.
on their headlights, coming in our bedroom windows. These are quotes from people,
Yep.
some of the neighbors that they've said at the meetings. Also, at the annual and special town meetings, there were 2 other things. One we've already talked about that impacts businesses in town and economic development. One is the major developments, which we were talking about a few minutes ago. And the other one is prior to last night, the town had overlay districts for wireless, where they say, okay, you can put up towers in this section of town, and this section of town, and that section of town. They're getting away from that concept and saying there's a new bylaw on the wireless zone material. Part of it is because of technology. Verizon and other companies just want to put equipment on a telephone pole. So maybe it only covers a couple of miles instead of 5 or 10 miles, but it doesn't require a 130-foot tower. It can be done on a 30-foot telephone pole. So the bylaw changed as of last night for wireless.
However, somebody preceding that doesn't fall under this new bylaw, correct?
This would be for new installations.
Okay.
In certain parts of town, Verizon wanted to put in a tower last year.
It's not over yet, so I wouldn't even,
Well, they filed a lawsuit against the town on the issue. So that's just some of the things there. And then, of course, our general changes in business developments in town. Anything else happening?
do you have any new businesses that you know of or anything?
Nothing in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, so I, because I wasn't here, so I do apologize. I know I was at an event at one of the local breweries and there was a gal, and I wish I could remember the name of the business, but she's now in, the plaza, the little building next to Tucker's. And I think they're doing.
627 College
I think they're
Highway.
doing like aesthetics and facial, like different things like that in there. And she seemed really nice, and I'm like, why aren't you promoting this? Like, and she's like, I didn't even think about it. So I am gonna pop in there one of these days, and just go introduce myself and say, you know, if you want to go on some of our Facebook pages, you should, you know, probably promote yourself on there, and just let people know you're here. So, but the gals seemed younger, really high spirited. They seemed, you know, super, I don't know, into what
Wanting to
they're doing.
succeed.
Yeah, wanting to succeed. So I thought that was nice. So
That sounds good.
you gonna go in for a facial?
I know.
You might like
She said
it.
they might do a pop-up Botox like every other month too, or something like that.
I only go
That should
to
be promoted.
I go to a traditional barber shop.
And what, they give you the facial?
No, they don't do none of that
It
stuff.
used to be
Do
that
the
warm
towel,
towel.
yeah.
Yeah.
After the nice.
He just gets the haircut,
Shave.
not the shave.
Any other businesses or anything happening?
I sold a property on Point Grove Road. It was the old little restaurant that they used to have.
Oh,
And so I had sold the home behind it, probably about a year or two ago, and I reached out to the gentleman who purchased that, and he was really struggling. And I went to John Goddard a couple of times and met with him just so we could try. There was a little bit of a language barrier with the gentleman who had purchased it, but because it was just a foundation, even though there was a foundation, they were charging him as if there was a full building on it for square footage, so he was getting taxed. He didn't realize that the sewer betterment was coming through, so then he had to take care of that. So it was just like one thing after another for this man. And
so there's no actual building?
so there was no actual building, it was just a foundation. And so I had it listed because it was strictly, even though it's all homes around it, because it was zoned business, and because nothing had been put there in the 2 years that he had purchased it, it couldn't change. So there was absolutely not even going really before a special town meeting. Like, I have tried every which way. Like, what if there's a business and then
To change the zone?
not necessarily to change.
residential, or-
Well, we could have, it should have been a multi. It should be a multi right there because everything around it is all homes. Having that one little,
That little cutout was business. The
no,
foundation?
it's all business around there. Those are
It is.
all business. Yep, that's all business
Oh.
zoned over there.
And in
So
in
let's say
Southwick-
hypothetically something happens to one of those homes, God forbid a fire or something like that. If they do not rebuild within 2 years, they cannot rebuild their home. They would have to it would have to be business owned.
See, in Southwick, you can't have residential
know.
generally in a
They're not
business
in the
zone.
best of shape, that area there.
And you would think a nice new little duplex or some, you know what I mean?
Right.
So somebody wanted to put a duplex, and we can do a duplex. So then we tried, I had another buyer, somebody wanted to do he said, what if I do a business on the bottom and on the top? It was nope, you can't do that because then it's considered an apartment and we don't allow apartments.
In
So it was a whole thing. So a gentleman did purchase it. He has a construction company, and he is putting a garage there to store his
Okay.
equipment, and then maybe do some I don't know if he's going to do like some woodworking and stuff, but he did go in front of the planning board to make sure everything was kosher. And so if you drive by there, he's already done a lot of clearing, neatened it up a little bit and stuff like that. So he's done. So he'll be in there, and I'm sure his sign will be up and stuff. So, again, I welcomed him to the town because it
Right.
is, in essence, a business coming
Is the
into
house
our town.
behind it staying?
Yeah, the house behind it is there. They have their own lot, and then the driveway is to the home behind it.
Yeah.
So the home behind it kind of goes, it's long,
Yeah. Yep.
so it's, it's different. Yeah.
I miss that restaurant. That was the best fish and chips.
Oh, really?
Oh my God,
I
yes.
don't remember it ever being there.
Yeah.
Which restaurant is it?
That was in like 1980, I think probably 89 they
What was
left.
it called though?
It was blue.
I,
I
want
feel
to
like-
say it was like
Franklin
Millie's.
House.
Yes,
right?
Millie's. It was-
Millie's.
I think it was-
And I don't
oh,
think
no,
it's
was it-
related to Millie's.
No, I don't
there,
think it's,
or
yeah,
wherever.
but I think you're right.
I think it was Millie's, but it was the darn best fish and chips
Yeah,
ever.
my father-in-law used to go there all the time.
We used to go from Connecticut for lunch. We worked in East Granby, and we'd run back to Southwick for lunch to get that fish and chips.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. That is
Yes.
too funny. So anyway, that was the situation. So there is gonna be another, new business there.
I heard that the Key Bank building had just been purchased and it was gonna be a dentist.
It was purchased about 6 months ago by a dentist who lives in Southwick. He's got his current business in Agawam. He's been renovating it. He paid like $750 or $850 or something for the building. He went to the planning board and talked to them, and they said, if the outside of the building isn't changing and you're just doing walls and fixing up inside, it's outside of our neighborhood, we have nothing to do with it.
Which would make sense.
That's up to,
That's
between you and the
typical.
building inspector. So apparently he's been renovating, he's had a dumpster in behind the building.
Yeah, I noticed that. So I wonder what he's gonna do with the drive-through.
I know,
Like
we all
drive-through
joked
we all-
about
And
that.
everybody on the planning board joked
Everybody.
about
Oh, they
that.
did, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying
You,
anything.
you get new teeth through
Yeah,
the
well, I was
drive-through.
saying that, like,
That's
what
where
if
you
you have to
pay
pick
your
up your dentures
Swing
or
around and
something?
pay
Yeah,
your bill
yeah.
there. 11 ATM.
Because they said, logically, if you're only gonna have one or two dentists in there, and a hygienist or whatever, you've got more than enough parking in front and
Right.
in back, and they said just, go forward.
So I did notice, somebody had posted recently something about the subway.
It
and I
seems
know
to
that,
have
I know,
closed.
well, the owner, I believe, passed.
She did.
Oh,
The daughter had, I saw something, the daughter had posted something because people were complaining like about the odd hours and they were closed and then they'd be open a day. And so I believe the owner had passed away. So those are typically franchises, so
Right.
I'm not sure what happens with that, but, I know that as of now, probably unless, family or something,
The sign is so tattered now.
it is,
It's
it's a
so
canvas
sad.
kind of like sign,
Right.
and it's been
Yeah.
flapping. in the wind.
well, you know what, I mean, if somebody's sick or they can't do something, but, I think that I'm gonna see if I can find where that was and just kind of reach out and see what the young lady, I hate to bother people after something,
It's- yes.
something
On,
that's
on the front door, there
tragedy,
was
just
a
to
name
see.
and a phone number.
I don't know if that's still there, but I'll
It was there a couple of weeks ago, because I stopped to kind of peer in, does it appear to be open or closed? And
like I said, I have about 2 more weeks of, my
Right.
focus is one thing only, so, I
Yeah,
really
Subway's a company based in Milford, Connecticut, and they've got 20 or 30,000 franchises all over all over the world. You'll find franchises in London and in Timbuktu, etc.
yeah. So,
No, she definitely did pass away.
Yeah.
I know that.
yeah, I saw that somebody had said that, so,
So I assume whoever owns the building, the landlord, would be,
maybe.
working on trying to find another tenant or whatever.
Either that, or unless it's leased, it has something, I think it's different when it's a franchise, because you kind of buy, I don't know, you would know, if you buy into a franchise, they kind of have a little bit,
Right.
so that'll be,
But it's like anything, we've had other businesses in town where the owner has died just in the last 2 months. So you have to try to give people a little bit of space and a little bit of time to figure out
Absolutely.
who's on first or what's on second or whatever. Any other businesses or endeavors?
What's the latest with this Blue Rhino? I mean,
There hasn't been anything since.
Seems like it might have just disappeared.
I think they were just doing an inquiry to see if it would make sense, because they had previously gone to Bloomfield, Connecticut, and informally talked to them, and then didn't proceed.
Well, Bloomfield didn't want it.
Well, I officially,
It was a wetlands issue.
Wetlands.
yeah,
And that's what they shared with us at the planning board meeting when we
Right.
had Blue Rhino on video.
right.
So after that meeting, there's been no other talk.
Now, on North Long Yard, there's a chunk of land, 200 plus acres, that's zoned agricultural. But then there was, some people speculate, oh, will it be residential, or will it be 50 houses or 100 houses? I've been told by someone in town hall that informally another farmer is going to buy the land. And if you look on Realtor.com, it says something, instead of for sale or sold, it's got some word in between. It's like pending or something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay. Here, if you tell me, where are we looking at?
North Long Yard, it's 200 plus acres. So if that can stay agricultural, it's hilly from North Long Yard probably to get up to it, and then there's over 200 acres of farmland
Gorgeous.
above that.
It's beautiful.
That was my backyard when I was growing up.
Okay.
Just give me a minute.
My running territory.
So then what are our action items? I mean, if this is passed, it seems like we need to be thinking about how we want to behave, right, with respect to people coming before us.
North Long Yard's under agreement.
Okay, under
Yeah,
agreement.
so that means they've accepted an offer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So Diane was, basically we would need to, create a standard for new businesses, like questions and stuff like that of what we're gonna wanna, ask people, when they come to us. So, I'm thinking if you're finding that Suffield was pretty responsive to you.
I was gonna say,
That
why don't I just
maybe
call and
I
ask
might,
them?
and who were you, did you,
The
Diane,
one-
you said you had,
Yeah, good friend of mine. I will ask her for their cheat sheet.
Sure.
And send that
yeah,
to you.
so that's what I was thinking, if they're responsive to just kind of maybe get a couple of cheat sheets from others and just kind of collaborate and maybe,
See, it's just every community is a bit different. For example, Suffield, 6 or 8 years ago, the town itself owned land for an industrial park, and then they were selling off parcels to businesses, which is not something that Southwick is in. We don't own any land. They did, and they got a guy who lived in Suffield, who had a business on Wally Way here in Southwick. He was renting. He bought the land from the town of Suffield cheap. He built a building and then moved his business from here to Suffield. So it's just, there's all these different possibilities and different ways of thinking.
so, and that's the thing, is if we get a couple, we can kind of
Right.
apply them.
Right, you'll customize
So,
that
so
to
maybe,
your
maybe,
focus.
yeah, so maybe, if we have a couple for the next meeting, we can have copies of each of them to everybody. Each person, we can kind of highlight or address which ones we think should be included, and then we can maybe, it might take a meeting or two, because we're not
Yeah,
here that
maybe a
long.
couple of meetings, about 10
Just to get some sort of formalized questionnaire of what we're gonna be looking at. Now,
The other consideration with that is, you may use it multiple times, or you may never use it.
Correct.
Right,
Hope-
right.
Hopefully we don't have many
Right.
major.
Right.
And each
projects.
question or each thing won't necessarily be
Pertinent
pertinent
to
for
that job.
each,
Right.
right,
For
for
that
each
particular
one. So we can kind of critique, so, and I don't know if that's something that would be a public thing in the sense where it's up there, so which would actually probably be beneficial, so if a business does wanna come in, they could say, hey, we've gotta know these answers and be ready for.
Sure.
Well,
Have
I
their
think
own
if-
handbook to
Right.
supplement.
Right.
If you look at the
planning board.
handbook, it's got a lot of stuff in
Right.
it already, the 5 or 6 pages,
I think we're gonna
whatever,
need to, yeah,
and go from there.
I'll reach back out to Suffield, Granby, and tomorrow morning I'm talking to Mike Rizzuta in Wilbraham, so
Okay.
I'll ask them for their cheat sheets.
tell them I'm a Minichog graduate, so.
Okay. I tell you, everyone has been so receptive to just talking.
That's great.
And I just said I'm doing a special project for the Economic Development
That's great.
Commission.
That's
And they
great.
were just like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
blah,
that's
blah.
awesome.
Well, if you ask anyone who's in a business, tell me about your business.
Right,
An hour later, you're still standing there or sitting there, and they're still talking. 'Cause most people are very proud of whatever it is they sell or do or whatever it
Well,
might
for
be.
them, it was just offering other information to another town.
Right.
So-
We're not, we're not your competitor.
No, not at all. So, okay, I'll do that.
that's fantastic.
I think the elephant in the room though is, you look at this mission statement, we need something to track, how we even decide what's to be talked about. And our benchmark should be our mission statement, right? So, have you seen one recently?
No. In fact, in the last 4 or 5 weeks, the Board of Selectmen interviewed a candidate and then hired the candidate to be the conservation agent for the town. And they went through the standard questions, the person answered the questions, and as they always do, if they're hiring a fireman or a policeman or anybody else, they always ask well, do you have any questions for us? And this person said, yes, I do. Well, they said, well, have you seen our employee handbook? Yes, I have. And do you have any questions? Yes, I do. I searched the handbook and I couldn't find the town mission statement.
No, it was there.
But
She
she
asked
could.
for an explanation,
Oh, okay.
and they couldn't explain it. They had to get back to her.
Right. I knew
And I don't
she
believe
baffled them,
they have gotten back to her
I don't believe
yet.
they have.
but they've hired her in the meantime.
Right. So are you wanting to develop a mission statement, Craig?
Well, I thought we had one, I don't.
I've never seen it.
So if we go back to when that, I believe, when that gentleman had emailed me that time, and I wasn't sure what document he was referring to. Do you
Oh,
remember?
yes.
What do we recall? And nobody, I don't know if I got an answer on that. What document he was referring to, where he
It was
found
the document that Craig, the woman.
Oh,
from-
that's right. The
from the
original.
Historical Commission and a third person who I don't know, I don't remember, I don't know if I've ever met the third person, but you and the woman from the Historical Commission created this document, and the cover sheet is like a quarter of a page, and it names the three of you, and it's kind of like a prelude to a combination master plan, open space,
Yeah.
housing
What was it?
document,
Do you remember?
etc.
What
That was
was
the community development plan
is that what it was?
Yeah.
Craig?
Yeah,
from
well,
2007.
I just.
He's done so many things. He's like, I don't
It's a
remember.
great document. I use it all the time. It's a great document. You should put.
That's
your
what I
mission on
thought.
it.
That's what I
You're right.
thought. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking. We
Yeah.
should pull our relook at that, revisit that. So what was it? Just I'm sorry, Diane. Just
It's the community development plan.
Yes.
And that's on the town site
Yes.
as well. Amber, what's your email?
I never-
AMBACH, the number 2, at yahoo.com.
I'm always amazed when I see these documents that have no cover, no date. It's like, what is this and when was it created or approved or whatever? Because this one, as I say, just very informally. But it talks about housing, it talks about the unemployment rate in town, it talks about a number of different things. That's why I say,
Right.
normally I would think of that as being part of a bigger document
Right.
of some sort.
So that could have your mission statement in
I
it?
think there was something in there, there was some sort of mission state or something in there, it was a while ago.
I think the
and it
intro
was-
would probably form your.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, so
statement.
I want,
That was
I
a good
kinda
one.
wanna relook
Right.
at that and revisit that. And maybe, so if that's pretty simple, I think that could be easy to do at the next meeting if we pull that up and just kind of
We gotta
vote
just
on
have
that.
our, you know, on our
Right,
monthly thing as well,
Yeah.
right? So we can track
right,
what's expected of us.
keep us in check, no.
And,
And I'd look towards the future.
right,
Oh, of
Because,
course.
yeah, cause I would love to see this commission
Mm-hmm.
develop into more of
Yep.
what other communities are
Oh, I
utilizing
agree,
the all for,
we've been,
and be part of that round table.
but then, just based on the data, for example, that you pull together, most communities either have a department or a person or something kind of behind them or adjacent to them, be it planning or zoning or whatever, or they have a budget. Which brings us up to the second item under old business, thinking of what we want to do in 2023.
are you,
Now, the beginning July 1st, we're gonna have $2,000 a year.
you got 2,000,
Mm-hmm.
so.
That's far cry from 21 or whatever, or 20.
No,
A
Or
big
60.
jump from 600.
600,
It is. I told you I would've asked for 5,000.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
we'll go for it next year or more.
Here's the statement, and
No,
now
it's a
Thank
great,
you.
go a little bit on.
the highlighted, you can flip it so it's bigger, rotate it, yeah.
So it's recommendations for actions the community can take to achieve its vision, a rural community that balances protection of natural resources and open space with diverse housing opportunities and a healthy and vital local economy. That's good. I think if
You
we're
can build off of that.
but I
that's a
think
good
we're more
core.
I think we're more economic. You know, obviously we like all those other things, but I think we have to.
It's
Yep.
like at the last master plan meeting, they were struggling with that issue of diverse housing.
Yeah, people
Because
are afraid of that.
some of them wanted to have something in there, because they were talking about in terms of the questions that they were gonna be asking the public. And other ones kind of didn't get the question or didn't wanna go near that area. That, in fact, that's why tomorrow night I think they're supposed to finalize their questions. So they can get the
For the
the
surveys.
survey
I
out to
think
the
they are.
public.
Yeah.
I don't mean to overtake your meeting, I'm sorry, but part of my plan was to help you guys get an elevated status. And part of the vagueness of questions that I have had with the select board, they keep talking about this balance of business and housing, et cetera, but nobody can define that. And in that statement that you just read, that balances
Right.
that with the vital and healthy economy. And I would like to see you guys help define what that is. And if I can help you, I certainly will.
I
Which
think
brings
these-
up-
This bunch too can also be a resource, I think, for, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we can certainly,
Have more of a platform
Yeah.
to stand on.
Right.
Yeah.
Proudly.
Which then brings up an interesting topic, the Southwick labor market. The latest data from the state for the month of March, we had 302 people unemployed with an unemployment rate of 5.2%. I've got each of for the last 12 months, and it goes up to last March of last year, 392 people were unemployed, and an unemployment rate of 6.9%. It bounces, from month to month, which is understandable. Last December, it was down at 4.2%, but then it's gone back up a bit. So this fits in with the census data that 37% of adults over the age of 25 in Southwick have a bachelor's degree or above. That means everyone else has something less. And some people in town have less than a high school diploma, but I think more than 90%, I'm trying to remember the data, has at least a high school diploma, but then they need jobs. So it just, all this kind of fits in. The same thing as
Did that unemployed include retired, or is retired a separate count?
retired is not unemployed. Unemployed is the
In
state
that
looks.
report where it says unemployed, but that doesn't
This
include.
is
No, that's
people who
correct.
apply to the state for unemployment.
Yep.
You're in the workforce.
Oh, okay,
If you're
that's-
retired,
yes,
you're
yes.
not in the
Okay,
workforce.
okay, that's the unemployment
Yeah,
report,
yeah.
okay, gotcha.
It's the same thing as about 20% of the population is over the age of 60, and then, what portion of them are still in the workforce or not. Yeah, this is just
Okay, that was from,
unemployment.
okay.
But it's just, we have a lot of people in town, we have a lot of people in the workforce. They may or may not work in Southwick, in fact, most of them don't. They work in Connecticut or in Springfield or the Windsors or somewhere else. But we still do have a problem of trying to keep people employed.
They also have to want to work too.
Well, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not getting into the top political
But
issues.
no,
or
I understand what you're
any of
saying.
that
like,
stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you go by Village Pizza, they've had a sign looking for help. That sign has been there now for more than 2 years.
And, all the restaurants are in that position.
Right.
Because I think people have, through this whole COVID stay-at-home thing, restaurants have become that much more important.
Mm-hmm.
And it's everybody's dinner now.
Right.
I don't think it's that they've necessarily lost people, I think they just need more people now
Right.
to handle us lazy people who don't cook anymore, or don't grocery shop anymore. Sorry, I thought I shut that off.
But anyway,
Who's the duck in the room?
is there anything else we need to discuss?
No, I think we're good.
Good.
And I probably will not be at the master plan committee meeting tomorrow. I know that they're okaying those survey questions. I did get a couple, John Goddard had CC'd me in on a couple things in regards to, because I'm a realtor, so for some of the housing stuff. And I made a couple suggestions to him on, a couple things for that. But otherwise I didn't see, I think they're gonna pull out certain aspects of the people where, where their strengths are and their knowledge is. And so, but there wasn't anything that was just kind of jumping out at me on anything else in regards
But
to.
at least as of last month, they were talking about getting most of the people to do the survey online, and that it would take 20 to 30 minutes to complete the survey. And some of the members of the committee were sitting there saying, you've got to shrink this down, get it
It
down
doesn't
to...
feel like 20 some odd minutes though. I did it again today and I gave it my full thought and I typed in all my free form answers. I thought about them and I filled them in, and I took 1 second, took 25 minutes for me to complete with a lot of thought and a lot of typing. And it didn't feel like that at all. It didn't at all. A lot of the questions go really quickly, and as soon as you answer, it pops to the next question, so you're not having to hunt and peck
But
for
you've been
things.
involved with this. Take someone coming in cold, who's
No,
looking at this, it may take them...
and I
yeah,
viewed it
I
that
don't
way,
know.
and I viewed it that way. And that's what I said, I gave every question thought as to how I was gonna answer it. It wasn't just, click one and blow
Right.
through it. But it flowed quickly,
That's good.
which was key. If you have to hit page and next page and next page, that's a drain. This one flips to the next question, which
Okay.
speeds it way up. It didn't feel at all like 25 minutes.
That's good. How's the housing market in town? Are we up at 10 or 15 houses?
I think there was 11 this morning. So mostly new builds still, for the most part.
It's just the new build stuff seems to start like at $599.9.
It does, but that's unfortunately across the board. If you look in surrounding towns too, I mean, it's just everything's just still pretty high, and there's just nothing you can do about it. You know, we don't dictate the prices. It's, you know, it's a supply and demand. The unfortunate thing is now, you know, with the interest rates going up too, it changes
That's gonna hurt.
it changes people's, you know, 0.5% can be a matter of $10,000. So it's, you know, it's a little bit different. So for people that were already struggling to find an affordable house, it's, you know, still the same struggle.
One
You
of the
know.
questions is, would you be in favor of smaller lot sizes, i.e. smaller houses as well?
Right, that
And
was
that
an
would
issue.
bring those prices into something you could choke to afford.
Right.
Because in some parts of the country, you get 4, 5, 6 houses, and I'm not talking about townhouses or apartments, but individual houses, 4, 5, or 6 houses per acre.
That's a little dense, but.
Then you can knock off 50 or 100 or 200,000
It's true.
off the price.
It is true. You know, I don't know if we, you know, want to look quite like that, but that is how they become
But
a little
pa-
more affordable, yeah,
Right.
in some of
Pa-
the southern states and stuff. It's just it's hard without having the inventory right now, and I think the thing that scares most people is the fact that, you know, where am I going to go? Like if I sell, even if I want to downsize, there's nothing to downsize
Upstate
to.
New York, Vermont.
Well, but if they want to stay local, you know,
Yeah,
if they have
there's
family and
nothing
stuff,
here.
there's not a whole lot of room. You know, so I'm finding it's either people that are moving out of town or out of state, or it's people that have other circumstances, life circumstances, where, you know, they're selling. But again, it's mostly those new builds right now, the new construction.
Because the reality, even before the mortgage rates going up, if you're working full-time at 20 or 25 bucks an hour, you don't qualify for a mortgage. I mean, in terms of what's available to buy,
And
unless you've got a huge down payment or
right,
something.
right. But even if you put a huge, you know, still whatever your you got to be able to afford your monthly payment, your monthly bills, and your monthly everything else. So, you know, and I always tell my clients that, you know, I don't want them to be house poor. I don't
Right.
don't max out. Don't go to your highest. You know, I don't want you to do that. You know, sometimes people, again, if they need it for a job or they need to move mom and dad, or they have, you know, they have to move, and they have to buy also, so it goes both ways, you know. Obviously we're gonna, you know, they're gonna do whatever they have to do.
Yep, sometimes
But
there's desperation.
it is, and there's you know, everybody thinks, you know, sales and real estate and whatever, but we're really right there with people during huge transitions in their lives for what they're going through. It's not always, I was just texting with another agent today, and, you know, it's not always easy. It's not always, you know, first time home buyer, yay, so exciting. A lot of it is really difficult, you know, holding people crying on, you know, on your shoulder that have lived in this home for 40 years, you know, but they just can't manage it, you know, different things like that. So
It's a lot of emotion.
It
And it's
is.
one of the top 5 purchases in some people's lives.
exactly, yep. And it's one of the top 3 most stressful things to go through is
Packing, yes.
right. So it's you know, it's death.
Making choices.
It's death, divorce, and buying or selling a new home, moving. Those are like the top 3 most stressful situations in your life. And a lot of people are dealing with at least 2 of
Yes.
those. You know, a lot of people are dealing with a lot of it. So they're just having, it's hard. So it's not all. But we just do the best we can.
Okay,
For that,
sure.
okay, so move,
All those in favor of adjourning, Michael, yes?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.